stands in the presence of God and who was sent to announce this good news to you. Well then, you will be silent, as you didn't believe my words, which will in fact turn out just as I said. You won't be able to speak a word until the very day it actually happens. The people waited for Zacharias. They were surprised that he was spending such a long time in the temple. When he came out, he couldn't speak to them. They realized that he had seen a vision because he kept on making signs and stayed firmly speechless the whole time. And it turned out that as soon as his time of priestly ministry was completed, he went back home. After these events, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and lived in seclusion for 5 months. "The Lord has done this for me," she exclaimed. "He was watching over me to take over my inability to have children, which the people considered to be a disgrace." When Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant, God sent the messenger Gabriel to Nazareth, a city in Galilee, to an unmarried girl who was engaged to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The unmarried girl name was Mary. The messenger greeted her. "Hello there, you highly favored person. The Lord is with you." But she was deeply disturbed and wondered what sort of greeting this was. The messenger continued, "Don't be afraid, Mary. You've found favor with God. You will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and you are to name him Jesus. He will be very important and will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestor David. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his realm will never end." "How can this be?" Mary asked the messenger. "I am a virgin. I haven't been with a man." The messenger answered, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will spread his shadow over you. The one to be born will be sacred and will be called the Son of God. Your relative Elizabeth has also become pregnant with a son in her old age. They said she was unable to have children, but if this, and because in it he quotes from the apocryphal Book of Enoch, it is rejected by many. Nonetheless, by age and use, it has gained authority and is considered among the holy scriptures." I didn't see where that word went. Angels and the Nephilim in the first book of Enoch. The following will likely make more sense after you have read the first book of Enoch, but I am placing it here for easy reference so you can refer to it. I have included passages from where the angels and the Nephilim mentioned in the first book of Enoch appear in other ancient sources. Angels were actually messengers. Angel is the transliteration of the Greek word and not a translation. To transliterate, noun, transliteration, means to put the Greek letters into English letters. Angels is the transliteration, but the meaning is messengers. The Hebrew word for angel actually means one dispatched as a deputy. The word occurs for an ordinary messenger as well as supernatural messenger. It's got notes. We'll skip that. The Archangel Gabriel. Parallel accounts in the New Testament. Luke 1, verses 5 to 7. In the time of Herod, the king of Judea, there was a certain priest named Zacharias. He was a member of the priestly order of Abijah. His wife was one of the descendants of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. They were both right before God, and they acted blamelessly as to all the commandments and regulations of the Lord. But they didn't have any children, as Elizabeth was barren and they were both getting on in years. Now it turned out that while Zacharias was serving God with his priestly duties, when his priestly division was on duty, he was chosen by lot. This was in line with the priestly custom, to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. At the time of the incense offering, the whole crowd of people was praying outside. A messenger of the Lord appeared in front of him, standing on the right side of the incense altar. When Zacharias saw him, he got all mixed up and he became quite scared. But the messenger reassured him. Zacharias, don't be afraid. Your earnest request has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you must give him the name John. He will be a joy and a delight to you, and lots of people will shout joyfully because of him. He will be important in the Lord's sight. He'll never take wine. Oops, I'm taking wine right now. Or sweet fermented liquor, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from birth. He will bring back many Israelites to Lord their God. He will go on ahead of the Lord to prepare people for the Lord. He will be equipped with the same spirit and power that Elijah had to correct the attitudes of parents to their children. He will correct disobedient people so that they will have the common sense of the people who are right with God and make ready for the Lord people who are well prepared for him. What's going to make me believe that this is the case? Zacharias asked the messenger. Me? I'm an old man, that's for sure, and my wife's well and truly getting on in years. The messenger answered, I am Gabriel, who stands in the presence of God and who was sent to announce this good news to you. Well then, you will be silent, as you didn't believe my words, which will in fact turn out just as I said. You won't be able to speak a word until the very day it actually happens. The people waited for Zacharias. They were surprised that he was spending such a long time in the temple. When he came out, he couldn't speak to them. They realized that he had seen a vision because he kept on making signs and stayed firmly speechless the whole time. And it turned out that as soon as his time of priestly ministry was completed, he went back home. After these events, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and lived in seclusion for 5 months. The Lord has done this for me, she exclaimed. He was watching over me to take over my inability to have children, which the people considered to be a disgrace. When Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant, God sent the messenger Gabriel to Nazareth, a city in Galilee, to an unmarried girl who was engaged to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The unmarried girl name was Mary. The messenger greeted her. Hello there, you highly favored person. The Lord is with you. But she was deeply disturbed and wondered what sort of greeting this was. The messenger continued, Don't be afraid, Mary. You've found favor with God. You will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and you are to name him Jesus. He will be very important and will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestor David. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his realm will never end. How can this be? Mary asked the messenger. I am a virgin. I haven't been with a man. The messenger answered, The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will spread his shadow over you. The one to be born will be sacred and will be called the Son of God. Your relative Elizabeth has also become pregnant with a son in her old age. They said she was unable to have children, but now she is 6 months pregnant. Every spoken word from God has power. Fantastic, Mary exclaimed. I am the Lord's slave servant. May everything you've said come true. And the messenger left her. And we'll skip the notes. Gabriel in the Old Testament Hebrew Bible. By the way, if you are listening to this, not live, but in a recording, I highly recommend you join me in turning off all the lights, sitting in pitch black darkness, except for 2 burning candles either side of the device that you're listening from. It just adds an extra dimension. That's how I'm reading it right now. Trust me, it is awesome. Then it came about when I, Daniel, had seen the vision and was looking for its meaning, that suddenly someone who looked like a human stood in front of me. I heard a human voice calling out from the Ulai riverbanks, "Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of the vision." So he approached the plain where I was standing, and then I became terrified, and I fell on my face. He said to me, "Human, understand that the events you have seen in your vision relate to the future." Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep with my face to the ground, but he touched me and stood me upright. He said, "I am here to reveal to you what will happen later in angry times. What you have seen pertains to the very end of time. The 2-horned ram you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The hairy goat demon you saw is the king of Ionia, and the large horn between its eyes is the first king. As for the horn that was broken, and the 4 others that took its place, 4 kingdoms will rise from the nation, but not by his power. And at the end of time of their kingdom, when the wrongdoers have reached their limit, a king of bold appearance, one who understands enigmas, will arise. He will be a very powerful, but not by his own power. He will cause a huge amount of destruction, and everything he does will succeed. He will destroy powerful leaders and devastate the sacred people. He will cunningly make deceitfulness prosper by his power, and he will praise himself. He will carelessly destroy many. He will rise up against the leader of leaders. But in the end, his power will be broken. The vision of the evening and morning that has been told to you is true, but hide the vision, as it's about the distant future." And I, Daniel, was weak for several days. Afterward, I got up and attended the king's business, but I was appalled by the vision, and no one understood it. While I was praying, the one, Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, ran swiftly and approached me about the time of the evening offering. He explained to me, "Daniel, I've come here to give you insight and understanding. At the beginning of your prayers, the word went out, and I've come to report it to you, for you are loved. So discern the utterance and understand the vision. 70 weeks are marked out for your people and your sacred city to stop rebellion, to put wrongdoing to an end, to make atonement for crime, to bring in continual justice, and to hide division and prophecy, and to anoint the most sacred. So perceive and understand that from the going out of the word to restore and build Jerusalem to the coming of the anointed one, a prince, there will be 7 weeks. Then, for 62 weeks, it will be built again with streets and moat, but in a time of distress. After the 62 weeks, the anointed one will be cut off and will have nothing. The people of the leader who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Its end will come with a flood, and devastations are to decreed up to the end of the war. And he will cut a covenant with many for 1 week, and for half the week he will make the sacrifice and offering cease. He will devastate the edges of the detestable, until that which is decided is poured out on the devastator. Again, if you're just joining, we're going over the archangels before we dive into the real deal, true Book of Enoch. The Archangel Michael. Accounts in the New Testament. Jude 9, quoting from the pseudographical The Assumption of Moses. But Michael, the chief messenger, when he was deciding the dispute, discoursing the slanderer, liar about Moses' body, did not dare to impose an abusive sentence on him, but said, "May the Lord impose the penalty on you." Revelation 12. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his messengers waged war against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought back. But the dragon wasn't strong enough, and thus they no longer had a place in heaven. The mighty dragon was thrown down, the ancient snake called Slanderer, Liar, and also called Adversary, who leads the whole earth astray. He and his messengers were hurled to the earth. Accounts in the Old Testament, Hebrew Bible. Daniel. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. I did not eat any tasted food, no meat, wine touched my lips. And I did not use any lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. On the 24th day of the first month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, the Tigris, I looked up, and there in front of me was a man dressed in linen and wearing a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like a precious yellow gemstone. His face shone like lightning, his eyes like a fiery torches, his arms and legs gleamed with burnished bronze, and his voice sounded like a crowd of people speaking. I, Daniel, was the only one who saw the vision. The people with me did not see it, but such fear came onto them that they fled and hid themselves. So I was left alone and saw this great vision. No strength was left in me. My vigor was completely destroyed, and I had no strength at all. Then I heard the sound of his words, and when I heard the sound of his words, I was on my face in a deep sleep with my face on the ground. A hand touched me, which shook me to my knees, and on the palms of my hands he said to me, "Daniel, you are a greatly loved person. Discern the words I'm about to tell you, and stand up. I have now been sent to you." And when he said this to me, I stood up, shuddering. Then he said to me, "Don't be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day you began to pray for understanding and to be occupied with Elohim's presence, your words have been heard, and I've come because of your words. But the spirit leader of the king of Persia withstood me for 21 days. But Michael, one of the foremost spirit leaders, came to help me, and I was left there with the spirit kings of Persia. Now, I've come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the future, for the vision concerns a time yet to come. Now, I've come so you will discern what will happen to your people in the future, as is the vision about the future." When he said this to me, I bowed with my face toward the ground, and I was unable to speak. Then the one who looked like a human, the one touched me with what looked like a human hand, touched my lips, and I opened my mouth and spoke. I said to the one standing in front of me, "I am utterly distressed by the vision, and my strength has left me. How can someone like me, your master's servant, talk to you, my master? I have no strength left, and I can hardly breathe." Then the one who looked like a human touched me again and gave me strength. He said, "Do not be afraid, you loved person. Be at peace. Be strong. Be strong." As he spoke these words, I suddenly grew stronger and said to him, "Now, please speak, my master. You've strengthened me." He replied, "Do you know why I've come? Soon I have to return to fight against the spirit of the Prince of Kingdom of Persia. And then, when I have left, the spirit leader of the King of Ionia will come. But I will tell you what is written in the truthful writings, and there is no one who supports me against these except Michael, your spirit leader." Daniel. At the time, Michael, the great spirit leader who takes a stand for your people, will take a stand. There will be a time of trouble such has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. But at the time of your people, those whose names are found written in the book will escape. the angels Raphael and Uriel. Raphael and Uriel are not mentioned in the Old Testament, Hebrew Bible, or the New Testament. Raphael features strongly in the Book of Tobit, a book of scripture that is part of the Catholic and Orthodox biblical canon and used by the Amish. The Book of Tobit is also found in the Septuagint, the ancient Greek Old Testament Hebrew Bible text from the 3rd to 2nd centuries BC, which was translated from the Hebrew texts of the times. The Septuagint is quoted in the New Testament. It was widely used by Hellenistic Jews of the era. Hebrew and Aramaic fragments of the Book of Tobit were discovered in a cave ivy at Qumran in 1952. The Book of Tobit was put forward by the Council of Carthage of 397 and confirmed for Roman Catholics in 1546 by the Council of Trent. The Book of Tobit is considered apocryphal by Protestants and was not included as canon by ancient Judaism. Do you see, this is aside from the book, do you see why I picked this to read to you guys instead of just the regular Book of Enoch, which would be just purely scripture? This is giving you the deep context for, not only angels contained wherein, but also the books and how they were perceived and what dates they came about. So I hope you guys are enjoying the experience on a far deeper level than if I had just read the scriptures plain and simple. In the Book of Tobit, Raphael tells Tobit that God sent him to cure his blindness and to help his daughter-in-law Sarah, as the evil spirit Asmodeus had killed her 7 husbands. Damn, this is aside from the book. Imagine, I don't know what you've got to do in your life to piss off a spirit that bad to kill 7 of your husbands. Damn! All right, back to the book. The Book of Tobit states, I am Raphael, one of the 7 sacred angels who present the prayers of the people devoted to God, and I go in and out of the presence of the splendor of the Sacred One. Raphael is not mentioned in the Quran. Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Michael, I like saying Michael better than Michael, are all mentioned in the Testament of Solomon. The Testament of Solomon is an Old Testament pseudepigraphical work, it's a big word, said to be, as the name suggests, written by King Solomon. It describes how Solomon was able to build the temple by commanding demons, thanks to a ring given to him by the Archangel Michael. All right, folks, this is where it gets interesting. When a demon named Ornias harasses a servant, who happens to be a favorite of Solomon's, by stealing half his pay and sucking out his life force through the servant's thumb, Solomon prays for help. As a result, the Archangel Michael gives him a ring with the seal of God on it. The ring gives him the power to command demons. By the way, I've tweeted about this before, but I've never heard this interpretation / take on it. But yeah, this is 100% true. Solomon had a ring that allowed him to control every beast, spirit, and creature on the face of the earth, and he used it to build the Temple of Solomon. All right, back to the book. The ring gives him the power to command demons. Solomon gives the ring to the servant and tells him to throw it at the demon Ornias' chest while ordering Ornias to go to Solomon. This I've never heard before. Ornias tells Solomon he is the offspring of the Archangel Uriel. Solomon had trouble with Ornias, so prayed that the Archangel Uriel would come and help him. Uriel came from heaven and made the sea monsters come out of the deep. Uriel told the demon Ornias to cut the stones for the temple. See, I told you. Solomon ordered the demon Ornias to take the ring and to do the same thing to Beelzebub, the prince of demons. Beelzebub says he used to be the highest ranking angel in heaven. Solomon questions all the demons as to which angel can frustrate them. The demon Error is frustrated by Uriel, as is the demon Artoseo. The demon Ruaz is frustrated by Michael. The demon Barsaphael is frustrated by Gabriel. The demon Asmodeus is frustrated by Raphael, as is the demon Obizuth. Solomon eventually has control over all the demons and gets them to build the temple. See, I told you. The Nephilim. Here is the parallel account in Genesis, chapter 6, verses 1 to 4. When humankind began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, those associated with God saw that the human women were beautiful, and so they took wives for themselves from any they chose. Bro, just a side note. Imagine being one of the first early humans. You're on the earth, right? You're pretty close to God. And then, the angels decide to run down to earth and, because they think your wife is sexy, they decide to swoop her from under your nose. Imagine how big of a cock you're going to be. All right, anyway. The Nephilim were, I thought that was just hilarious. The Nephilim were on the earth in those times. And afterward, when those associated with God were having sex with the human women who gave birth to their children, they were of the Giborim of the ancient times, the famous ones. The Septuagint, Philo of Alexandria, Josephus, Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, Athenagoras, Clement of Alexandria, Tertullian, Lactantius, Eusebius, Ambrose of Milan, Jerome, Sulpicius Severus, and Augustine of Hippo all identified the sons of God, correctly, the associates of God, of Genesis 6, verses 1 to 4, with the angels who came to earth and had sex with human women. The words, those associated with God, are often mistranslated as the sons of God. But the word sons/children's with a noun indicates an association with the noun and should be translated thus. This occurs only elsewhere in Job chapters 1:6, 2:1, 38:7, where it is clear these are angels. All right, before I continue to read on the Nephilim, let me just take a swig of this beautiful wine I've got with me. Lovely. I've also got my mineral water with Celtic sea salt added. Important to stay hydrated. All right. Nephilim in Numbers 13:33. The word Nephilim occurs only twice in the Old Testament/Hebrew Bible. In Genesis 6:4, which we just read, and Numbers 13:33. Here is the mention in Numbers 13:33. And there we saw the Nephilim, the Anakims, who came from the Nephilim. And we seemed to ourselves to be like grasshoppers, and we seemed the same to them. All right, side note. These Nephilim, these half angel, half human things that decided to have sex with human women, were so big that regular sized humans were like grasshoppers. I want you to really think about that. Think how big a grasshopper is in relation to you, right? Now, imagine if the grasshopper was you, how big these Nephilim are, right? They've got to be absolutely enormous beyond comprehension. Back to the book. Nephilim is the Aramaic word for giants. I never knew that. It is translated by the English word giants in several Bible versions, which can be misleading, as the giants of ancient times were not like the fairy tale giants we think of today. The word Rephaim is also translated by the English word giants, or as the dead, in several Bible versions. Deuteronomy 2:11. Like the Anakims, They too were considered Rephaim, but the Moabites called them Enims. Deuteronomy 2:20. That area too was once considered to be the land of the Rephaim, and the Ammonites refer to them as Zamzumimims. 2 Samuel 21:20. In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a man of stature with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He also was descended from the Rephaim. Deuteronomy 3:11. I swear, guys, we get to the actual Book of Enoch very, very soon. Just bear with me, okay? This is very important context. In still another battle which took place at Gath, there was a man of... Wait. Yeah, we just read that. Never mind. King Og of Bashan was the last of the Rephaim. His iron bed was more than 9 cubits, which is 13 feet or 4.1 meters long, and 4 cubits, which is 6 feet or 1.8 meters wide. It remains today in the Ammonite city of Rabbah. Deuteronomy 3:13. I gave rest of Gilead and also of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, to half tribe of Manasseh. The whole region of Argob in Bashan used to be known as the land of the Rephaim. Note, Goliath is often said to be one of the Nephilim, but there is no evidence for this, and the Bible itself does not say this. As we have seen, the 2 passages in the Old Testament / Hebrew Bible which mention Nephilim have nothing to do with Goliath. Yeah, I reckon Goliath was probably a descendant of this Rephaim. 1 Samuel 17:4. And a champion went out from the camp of the Philistines. His name was Goliath, and he was from Gath, and his height was 6 cubits and a span. Note, the Septuagint, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Josephus have his height as 4 cubits and a span, which is 6 3/4 feet tall, 2 meters. 6 cubits and a span is 9 feet tall. However, Goliath was not called a Nephilim. Which angel was the leader of the Watchers? Again, I implore everybody after this, go watch the movie Noah, starring Russell Crowe. I believe it came out in 2013. Very good movie. Talks about the Watchers. Features Noah, obviously, and Methuselah. Really cool movie. All right, which angel was the leader of the Watchers? Account 2 in Enoch. These are the Grigori, who with their chief Santanael rejected the Lord of light, and after them are those who are held in great darkness on the second heaven. And 3 of them went down on earth to the place Hermon, and broke their vows on the shoulder of the Mount Hermon, and saw the human women, and slept with them, and contaminated the earth with their deeds. In their times, they caused lawless mixing, and Nephilim were born. Amazing, big people, and great hostility. So God judged them strongly, and they weep for their associates. They will be punished on the Lord's great day. Account in Psalms. Psalm 82, a psalm of Asaph. Elohim presides over the assembly of El. He gives judgment in the midst of the Elohim. How long will you defend the unjust and show favoritism to the wicked? Selah. Defend the cause of the poor and the fatherless. Defend the rights of the oppressed and suffering. Rescue the poor and needy. Rescue them from the power of the wicked. They know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk around in the dark. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are Elohim. All of you are associates of Elyon. Yet you will die like mortals. You will fall like the other rulers. Rise up, Elohim, and judge the earth, for you own all the nations. Note, verse 1, equally possible from the text, the assembly of El, or the mighty assembly. How you are fallen from heaven, Lucifer, light bearer, associate of dawn. how you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above El's stars. I will preside on the appointed mountain in the sides of the north. I will climb to above the height of the clouds. I will be like Elyon. But instead, you will be brought down to Sheol, the sides of the pit. Everyone there will stare at you and ask, Is this the one who shook the earth and the kingdoms of the world? That made the world a wilderness and demolished its cities and did not free its prisoners from Sheol? The kings of the nations lie in splendid tombs, but you will be thrown out of your grave like a ritually abominable branch. You will be dumped like the remainder of those slain by the sword, with those killed in the battle of corpse trampled underfoot. You will go down to the dungeon. You will not be given a proper burial, because you have destroyed your land and killed your people. The offspring of evildoers will never be proclaimed. Kill the children of this wrongdoer, so they do not rise and conquer the land or rebuild the cities of the world. Jeez, that is intense. I need a minute. Account in Ezekiel 28:11-19. The word of Yahweh came to me. Human, weep for the king of Tyre, and say to him, Adonai, Yahweh says, you were full of wisdom and beauty. You were in Eden, Elohim's garden. Your clothing had every precious stone, sardius, chrysolite, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, and emerald, and carbuncle, gold, and the making of the settings was crafted for you on the day you were created. You are the anointed cherub that defends. You had access to Elohim's sacred mountain and walked among the fiery stones. You were complete in everything that you did from the day you were created until the day injustice found in you. Your great wealth filled you with violence, and you sinned. So I banished you from Elohim's mountain. Mighty guardian, I expelled from you place among the fiery stones. Your heart was filled pride because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth and exposed you to the gaze of kings. You defiled your sanctuaries with many wrongdoings and your dishonest trade. So I brought fire from within you, and it consumed you. I will burn you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who are watching. All who knew you are appalled at your destruction. You have come to a terrible end, and you are no more. I think this is the most intense Bible reading I've ever done. Please, again, I reassure you, if you can, if you are listening to this on the playback, turn off all the lights, make your place completely dark, maybe grab a bit of wine, and let the only light sources be from 2 candles either side of the device that you're listening to this from. That's what I'm doing right now. I have my wine, I have my book, I have my 2 candles, and I've got to tell you, it is quite the scene. Before I continue, let me just take a swig. Another reminder, add sea salt to your water so that your cells can be fully hydrated. All right. This next part's intense. I'm going to do it in an intense voice. Are you ready? How you are fallen from heaven, Lucifer, light bearer, associate of dawn. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above. Wait, did I read this already? Guys, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I literally. Oh, okay. Beginning. Account in Luke 10:17-20. The 70 came back and were very happy. They said, Lord, even the demons yield to us in your name. Yes, I know, Jesus replied. I was watching adversary fall like a flash of lightning from the sky. I have given you the authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and authority over all the enemy's power, and nothing will harm you. But, all that aside, don't be happy just because the spirits yield to you, but instead, be happy that your names have been written down in the heavenly places. Account in Revelation. And a mighty sign appeared in heaven. It was a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in torture as she was in labor about to give birth. And I saw another sign in heaven. It was a huge red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 diadems on the heads. Its tail dragged a third of the stars out of the sky and hurled them to earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth, so that he could eat her child the moment it was born. She gave birth to a son who was destined to rule all the nations with an iron rod. Her child was snatched away and carried up to God and to his throne. The woman escaped into the desert to a place that God had prepared for her, so that she would be taken care of for 1,260 days. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his messengers waged war against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought back. But the dragon wasn't strong enough, and thus they no longer had a place in heaven. The mighty dragon was thrown down, the ancient snake called slanderer, liar, and also called adversary, who leads the whole earth astray. He and his messengers were hurled to the earth. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, "Just now have come salvation and power and the kingdom realm of our God and the authority of his anointed one, because the accuser of our fellow believers, who accuses them in front of our God day and night, has been hurled down. And they conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the message of their testimony. They were willing to give up their lives. For this reason rejoice, you heavenly places and those who encamp in them. But alas, for the earth and the sea, because slanderer liar has gone down to you. He is in major rage, because he knows his time is short." And when the dragon realized that it had been hurled down to earth, it chased the women who gave birth to the male child. The woman was given the 2 wings of a huge eagle, so that she could fly to the place prepared for her in the desert. In that place, she would be taken care of for a time, times, and half a time. And the snake spat out water like a river from its mouth in order to overtake women and sweep her away in the current. The earth helped the woman by swallowing the river that the dragon had spat out its mouth. The dragon was furious with the woman and went off to make war against the rest of her offspring, those who obey God's commandments and hold on to Jesus' testimony. And the dragon stood on the seashore. Who was the angel Azazel? Azazel figures strongly in the first book of Enoch. The word Azazel was mistranslated scapegoat by several Bible versions. A mistranslated started by Tyndale's 16th century English translation and followed by such versions as the King James Version and the New International Version. It is translated correctly as Azazel in the Revised Standard Version and the English Standard Version. Tyndale misread the Hebrew word to mean escaped goat and coined the word scapegoat. The name Azazel occurs 3 times in the Old Testament Hebrew Bible, in Leviticus 16:8, 10, 26. The context is that on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, which, by the way, it's one of the highest holy Jewish days. Where'd I go? The Day of Atonement, the high priest performed the set sacrifices for himself, his family, then presented the victims for the sins of the people. These were a ram for the burnt offering and 2 young goats for the sin offering. The high priest brought the goats before Yahweh at the door of the tabernacle and cast lots for them, one lot for Yahweh and the other lot for Azazel. The goat that fell by lot to Yahweh was killed as a sin offering for the people. The high priest laid his hands on the head of the goat that fell by lot to Azazel and confessed the sins of the people over it. The goat then was handed over to a man who led it to an isolated region and let it go in the wilderness. Leviticus 16:6. Aaron will offer the bull as a sin offering for himself and shall make atonement for himself and for his family. Then he will take the 2 goats and set them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron will cast lots over the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel. And Aaron will present the goat on which the lot fell for the Lord and use it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel will be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it, and will be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel. And he who lets the goat go to Azazel will wash his clothes and bath his body in water, and then afterward he may be come back into camp. The 13th century Nahmanides, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman's commentary on Leviticus 26:8 states that Azazel belongs to the class of Seirim, hairy goat-like demons. This follows Rabbi Abraham Ibn Ezra's commentary, although Ibn Ezra did not state this explicitly. Isaiah 34:5 states, "The wild animals of the desert will meet with the howlers, and the hairy goat demon, Seirinim, will cry to its fellow. Lilith will settle there, find for herself a resting place." Isaiah 31:21 states, "But the desert dwellers will recline there, and their dwellings will be full of howling creatures, and female unclean birds," meaning unclear, "will live there, and hairy goat demons, Seirim, will dance there." 2 Chronicles 11:15 states, "And he appointed his own priests for the high places, and for the hairy goat demons, Seirim, and for the calf idols which he had made." The Septuagint, ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures, translates Seirim by ancient Greek word meaning profane or useless. To the 1st and 2nd century Jewish text, originally Jewish but presented today only in Slavonic, the apocalypse of Abraham, Azazel, is portrayed as an unclean bird which came down upon the sacrifice prepared by Abraham. See also Genesis 15:11. Birds of prey came down onto the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. It describes Azazel as an evil spirit, a liar, and as an entity that brings troubles to humans who live wickedly. The Apocalypse of Abraham 31:5 states that the wicked will decay in the belly of the cunning worm Azazel, and be burned by the fire of Azazel's tongue. Azazel's appearance is described as a dragon with hands and feet like a human's, and having 6 wings on the right and 6 wings on the left of his back. God is said to share the earth with Azazel. Islam tradition holds Azazel as one of the jinn, or jinn, are Arabian spiritual beings who are shapeshifters, evil spirits, and treacherous spirits who can create illusions. They are creatures of flame and were created from the smokeless fire and the searing wind. There are many different kinds of jinn. Jinn are considered to be the cause of shooting stars, whirlwinds, and sandstorms. They prefer to live in desolate places. In Islamic tradition, Azazel is identified with Iblis. The Quran states that when angels were told to submit to Adam, they did. But Iblis refused and was arrogant. And you can find that in Surah 2:35. It also states that Iblis said Allah created him out of the fire while humans were created out of clay, and that Allah banished him. You can find that in Quran, Surah 7:13-19. See also Surah 15:31-48, 17:61-65, 18:50, 20, 116-123, 38, 71-85. This is an excerpt from the Islamic 21st Discourses on Addressing Iblis the Accursed. The Sheikh, may Allah be pleased with him, and may he grant him contentment, said, I saw Iblis in a dream, where I was in the midst of a big crowd. I was on point of killing him when he said to me, may Allah curse him, why are you going to kill me? What is my offense? If evil is entailed by destiny, I am powerless to change it and transform it into good. And if good is so entailed, I cannot change it and transform into evil. So what do I control? Hermaphroditic in appearance, he was soft-spoken, with distorted features, wisps of hair on his chin, misshapen and disformed. When he smiled at me, the smile was bashful and apprehensive. This happened on the night of Sunday, 12th of Dhul Hijjah, in the year 516 of the Hijrah. Allah is the guide to all that is good. Note, Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani, Revelations of the Unseen, Futa al-Ghaib, a collection of the 78 discourses. Abd al-Qadir al-Jihani, translated from the Arabic, Mukhtar Holland, Houston, Texas, Al-Vos Publishing, 1992. The Watchers. This is the account in the Book of Jubilees. And in the second week of the 10th Jubilee, Mahalel took Dinah as a wife. She was the daughter of Barakhiel, the daughter of his father's brother, and she bore him a son in the third week of the 6th year. He named him Jared, and in his days the Lord's angels named the Watchers came down to the earth in order to instruct the humans and so that they could carry out judgment and justice on the earth. You can find that in Jubilee 4:15. God was exceedingly angry with the angels he had sent upon earth. Jubilee 5:6. The punishment of the Watchers. The passage in 2 Peter 2:4-8 is about the Watchers who came down to earth and rebelled against God's ordinances by whoring after human women, including those of Sodom and Gomorrah, as can be seen in the Testament of Naphtali 3:4-5. God didn't spare the messengers who sinned, but handed them over to Tartarus in ropes, in the underworld's gloom, where they are firmly held for judgment. The Book of Jude in the New Testament mentions the 3 elements that are linked in accounts of the Watchers: sorcery, going after a different flesh, and punishment of angels, messengers. Jude quotes Enoch in verses 14-15. Before I read that, some people say that, Enoch isn't a real book. The Book of Enoch shouldn't be in the Bible. Bro, not only does Jesus directly quote the Book of Enoch, which was established well before Jesus' time, it's also like repeatedly quoted in the Book of Jude, as you're about to find out. And as for the messengers who did not uphold their own office, but deserted their own places, he has held them firmly in eternal ropes, down in the gloom, waiting for the judgment of the great day. Just like these, Sodom and Gomorrah, as well as the surrounding cities, which in a similar way committed porneia and went after different flesh, serve as an example of those who undergo punishment in the eternal fire. Note, porneia. There is no equivalent English term of this word. It is a term referring to the acts condemned in the law of Moses, acts encompassing idolatry and or pornography, the vice, certain sexual acts. Leviticus 18 states, idolatry and ritually unclean sexual acts against the law of Moses. And in 18:3 states, you must not do the deeds of the land of Canaan, into which I am about to bring you. These include incest, sex with in-laws, and sex with a woman as a rival to her sister, women or men having sex with animals, child offerings to Moloch, sex with women during menstruation. Note also that the polytheistic Canaanites were particularly despised in the Old Testament, and male temple prostitution was part of their worship of their goddess Asherah. Cult prostitution and eunuchs castrating themselves and thereafter dressing in women's both figured in the worship of the Canaanite goddess Astarte. Now that is an interesting point. I wonder if in our age of the Lord's year 2023, if cross-dressing, a man dressing as a female, is considered worship to the Canaanite goddess Astarte. Just a food for thought. Anyway, back to the book. Went after different flesh. Angels having sex with human women. The Book of Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees 5 sets out the punishment by God upon the Watchers and says that the flood was due to the Watchers taking human wives, but that God saved Noah from it. Again, guys, I highly implore you, go watch the movie Noah starring Russell Crowe. It is literally exactly that. The Book of Jubilees, chapter 7, verse 20 to 2 states, Noah encouraged his sons to avoid porneia, uncleanness, and injustice. For it was on account of these things that the flood came on the earth, since it was due to sexual misconduct in which the Watchers, against the regulations of their authority, had illicit sex and went a-whoring after human women. When they married whomever they liked, they committed the first acts of uncleanness, and as children of the Nephilim. And he testified about the Watchers who had sinned with the female humans, for they had begun to sleep with the female humans, causing defilement, and Enoch testified against them all. It happened when the humans began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the angels of God saw them on a certain year of the Jubilee, and saw that they were beautiful to look at, and chose wives, anyone they wanted, and those wives bore them children, and they were Nephilim. Lawlessness increased on the earth, and everything of the earthly realm became corrupt. Humans, cattle, wild animals, birds, and everything that walked the earth, all of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to eat each other. Lawlessness increased on the earth, and every imagination of all human thought was continually evil. And God looked at the earth and saw it was corrupt, and everything of the earthly realm had corrupted its order, and all that were on the earth had done all kinds of evil in front of his eyes. He said, I will destroy humans and all living things on the face of the earth that I created. Testament of Naphtali 3:3, 4, 5. The Testament of Naphtali 3:3, 4, 5 states that the women of Sodom had sex with the Watchers. It states, in the same way also which the Watchers had changed the order of their nature, the Lord cursed the Watchers at their flood and made the earth desolate because of them, so that it would be uninhabited and fruitless. Note that the term changed the order of their nature, which is similar to Jude's term, went after different flesh, and to Paul's statement, for the females exchanged natural sex for what is other than nature, and the same goes for males too. In Romans 1:26. The church father Irenaeus. The church father Irenaeus stated, and wickedness very long continued, and widespread, pervaded all the races of men, until very little seed of justice was in them. For unlawful unions came about the earth, and as angels linked themselves with offspring of the daughters of men, who bore them to sons, who on account of their exceeding great were called giants. The angels then brought their wives as gift teachings of evil, for they taught them the virtues of roots and herbs, and dyeing in cosmetics, and discoveries of precious materials, love fights, hatreds, amours, passions, constraints of love, the bonds of witchcraft, every sorcery and idolatry, hateful to God. And when this was into the world, the affairs of wickedness were propagated to overflowing, and those of justice dwindled to very little. The 2nd century theologian Tatian. The 2nd century theologian Tatian, Apology 5, stated, God committed the care of humans and everything under heaven to angels whom he appointed them. But angels disobeyed this appointment and were captivated by the love of women. They produced children who were called demons. And not only that, they later subjugated the human race for themselves. Partly later subjugated the human race for themselves. Hang on, I accidentally turned the page. Give me a moment. They produced children who were called demons, and not only that, they later subjugated the human race to themselves, partly by magical writings, partly by fears, and the punishments they brought about, and partly by teaching them to offer sacrifices, incense, and libations, as they needed these things after they were enslaved by lust. Among humankind, they sowed murders, wars, adulteries, awful actions, and all kinds of wickedness. Clement of Alexandria. Clement of Alexandria, Miscellanies 5.1:10, stated, to this we will also add that the angels who obtained a superior rank after sinking into pleasures told the women the secrets which had come to their knowledge. The 2nd Book of Enoch. The 2nd Book of Enoch 10. Those 2 men led me up onto the north side and showed me there an awful place. There were all kinds of torches in the place, brutal darkness. In the gloom of darkness, there was no light there, but a gloomy fire consistently burning high, and a fiery river coming out. The whole place is on fire, and everywhere there is frost, ice, thirst, and cold. These bonds are very cruel, and the angels frightening and without compassion. They carry fierce weapons and harsh torture. I said, woe, woe, this place is so awful. And those men replied, Enoch, this place is prepared for those who dishonor God, who on earth practice crime against nature, child corruption, magic making, enchantments, and devilish witchcrafts, and who boast of their wicked deeds, stealing, lies, slander, envy, resentment, porneia, murder. They are the accused and steal people's lives and take away the possessions of the poor in order to make themselves rich, harming them. And although they are able to feed the hungry, make them starve to death. And although they are able to clothe people, they strip them naked. They did not acknowledge their Creator and bow down to the soulless and lifeless gods who cannot see nor hear, useless gods, and they also built carved images and bowed down to unclean work. This whole place is prepared for their eternal inheritance. Chapter 3, the first book of Enoch. Translation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally arrived to the actual book of Enoch. All right, we needed to lay that down as context. That was, oh my goodness, that was 2 full hours. No, hang on, that was 1 hour. I'm tripping. All right, let me just stretch my legs because I was sitting down that whole time. I hope you're enjoying. So we went into the angels, the background, all of them, different ancient texts. We're about to jump into the actual, real deal Book of Enoch, the first Book of Enoch, from which we found in Ethiopia in the 1700s. All right, let me just do a quick hamstring stretch. All right. Enoch, Book 1, translation. The Book of the Watchers. The word of the blessing of Enoch, how he blessed the chosen ones and the just, who were to live in the time of trouble, rejecting all the wicked who would be removed. Enoch was a just person, whose eyes were opened by God and saw a sacred vision in the heavens and told about it. The angels showed me this. I heard everything from them and understood what I saw. It will not take place in this generation, but in a generation which will come at a future point. Sidebar. All right, this isn't in the book, this is me speaking. I have heard from a highly respected esoteric that he presupposes the theory that this future generation, which, mind you, this was written before Jesus' day, that this future generation is actually applying to us. Okay? I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm saying that's a theory. Keep that in mind. Back to the book. I spoke and conversed with him about the chosen ones. The sacred mighty one will leave his dwelling. The eternal God will tread on the earth, on Mount Sinai. He will appear with his hosts and appear with his powerful strength from heaven. Everyone will be afraid, and the watchers will be terrified. Great fear and trembling will grip them, as far as to the ends of the earth. The high mountains will be shaken, and the high hills brought low, melting like wax in the flame. The earth will be ripped open, and everything in it will perish, and there will be judgment on all. But he will give peace to the just. He will safeguard the chosen and show them compassion. Then they will all belong to God, and they will be prosperous and blessed. His light will appear to them. The Lord comes with tens of thousands of his devoted people to carry out judgments on everyone, to cross-examine every soul among them who has committed sacrilege, about their sacrilegious acts, about all the harsh things that sacrilegious wrongdoers have said about him. Commentary. This was quoted by Jude in the New Testament, verses 14 to 15. 14. Now Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied to these people too. He said, the Lord comes with tens of thousands of his devoted people to carry out judgments on everyone, to cross-examine every soul among them who has committed sacrilege about their sacrilegious acts, and about all the harsh things that sacrilegious wrongdoers have said about him. These people are complaining grumblers, going the way of their own wants and wishes. They boast excessively about themselves and flatter other people for their own benefit. The watchers, also known as Grigori, after the Greek. Chapter 2, verses 1 to 3. All who are in the heavens know what happens there. They know that the heavenly luminaries do not change their paths, that each rises and sets regularly at the proper time without wandering off from their appointed order. Observe the earth and take notice of what happens there. From the beginning to the end, how nothing changes, but God's work is apparent. Observe the summer and winter, how the whole earth is full of water, and that the cloud, the dew, and the rain lie on it. Observe how every tree appears to wither and shed its leaves, except for 14 trees, which are not deciduous, but retain their old leaves for 2 or 3 winters until new leaves appear. And again, observe the days of summer, how the sun is on it at the very beginning, while you look for a covered and shady spot due to the burning sun. The earth burns with scorching heat, and because of the heat you cannot walk on the ground or on the rocks. Observe how the trees cover themselves with green leaves and produce fruit. Observe that he who lives forever has made all these things, and that his works continue from year to year, and that all the tasks they do for him do not change, but things are brought to pass as God has appointed them to do so. Observe how the seas and rivers together do what they are meant to do. But you have not been unwavering, nor have you carried out the Lord's instructions, but you have misbehaved and spoken nasty, spiteful words with your polluted mouths against his magnificence. You, hard-hearted, no peace will come to you. Therefore, you will curse your days, and your lives will come to an end. You will be the object of increasing and perpetual cursing, and you will not find compassion. In those times, all the just will consider your names to be an abhorrent curse, and all who curse will curse by you. All the wrongdoers and the unjust will invoke evil by you, and for you, the godless, there will be a curse. Then they will celebrate, and there will be forgiveness for wrongdoings, and compassion, peace, and tolerance. There will be rescue for them, a good light. But on you, all there will be a curse. For the chosen ones, there will be light, favor, and peace, and they will inherit the earth. Wisdom will be given to the chosen ones. They will live and not do wrong, whether through godlessness or pride, but the wise ones will be humble. They will not do wrong again for the rest of their lives. They will not die as a result of anger or torment, but will live out the full term of their lives. They will grow old in peace, while their lives will increase with happiness and peace for all the days of their lives. It happened after the humans had multiplied, that in those times, daughters were born to them, and they were attractive and beautiful. Commentary: the humans. The phrase often mistranslated sons of men, children of men, actually meant people, humans. The word children/sons of men with a noun refers to a member of class of people and should not be translated as son/child of. The phrase sons of place name, children of place name, again refers to the inhabitants of the place. The B'nai Israel, translated in the King James Version as children/sons of Israel, actually means members of the class of people called Israel, and should be translated as Israelites. The expression is also Greek, as found as early as Homer. In the case of New Testament, where the Greek word huios is placed with the word Israel, referring to the class of people called Israel, should not be translated as Israelites. Properly, it is not to be translated as children of Israel or sons of Israel. Likewise, Otto-Ehrenreith's Homeric Dictionary notes that huios, with the word acheon, means achaiens. This is typical Greek usage. The word huios is often used with a noun to express similarity with the noun. For example, an ancient Greek would put the word huios, son, child, with the word meaning perfume to mean the perfumed one, or to refer to a person who smells nice. In word-for-word Greek, the same expression would appear as child/son of perfume. But such a mistranslation is not the correct meaning. Sometimes Greek simply used the genitive case of inserting the word huios. For example, I'm just going to skip this. This is just boring. Let me get back to it. Watches. An Aramaic text reads watches. Daniel 4:17 mentions a watcher. Nebuchadnezzar tells Daniel that he saw in a vision or dream a sacred watcher who appears to him and made an announcement. In the vision, the watcher concluded, "This announcement is by the decree of the watchers. This command is by the word of the sacred ones, so that the one who were alive may understand the Supreme has authority over the human kingdoms, that he gives it to whoever he wishes. He sets them up, even the lowest ranked human beings, over them. The Septuagint, Greek Old Testament, translates the word for watcher as angel. However, Theodosian, who lived in circa 200 AD, the Jewish scholar who made a translation of the Hebrew Bible into Greek, transliterates the word. That is, he simply puts it into Greek letters without attempting to translate it as one does with the names. Benecha Elohim is often mistranslated sons of God, but in fact refers to the inhabitants of heaven or the associates of God, Elohim. Both the ancient rabbis and the church fathers did not acknowledge Benecha Elohim as associates of God, properly, associates of Elohim. The rabbis instead saw them as righteous men, and the church fathers saw them as Seth's descendants. John 2:1. Again, there was a day when the associates of God came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan also came with them to present themselves before Yahweh. Job 38:7. When the morning stars sung together, and all the associates of God shouted for joy. Psalm 29:1. A psalm of David. Assign to Yahweh, you mighty ones, Bene Elohim. Assign to him splendor and strength. Psalm 89:7. El is respected in the great assembly of the sacred ones. He is more awe-inspiring than all who surround him. Then their leader, Sem Chazah, said to them, I am concerned, as I fear that perhaps you won't agree to carry out this venture, and that I alone will have to pay for the penalty of such a serious crime. But they answered, Let all swear an oath and bind ourselves by mutual curses, that we will not change our minds, but carry through this venture. So they swore all together and bound themselves by mutual curses. They were 200 in number. They descended in the time of Jared on the top of Mount Hermon. They called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn an oath and bound themselves by mutual curses. Sidebar, hello, me speaking. When was the last time that you and your bros were bound by something by mutual curses? That is the ultimate promise. Instead of just going, yeah, bro, yeah, I'll do it. What if you two literally bound yourself? Okay, whoever breaks this is literally going to be cursed for all eternity. All right, just food for thought. Anyway, back to the book. These are the names of their leaders. Sem Chazah, who was their leader. Arachiva, Ramil, Chochabiel, Ramiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barachiel, Azael, Azaranos, Batarel, Ananiel, Sachiel, Samasampel, Satariel, Turhiel, Somhagiel, Sarhiel. These were the leaders of the groups of 10. All right, blah, 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 blah. Sadiel. The Aramaic texts have an earlier catalogue of the watchers' names. Semhizah, Archoho, Ramtiel, Chochabel, Tramel, Dariel, Sekiel, Barakel, Asahel, Hermoni, Matarel, Ananel, Sachoel, Samstiel, Sahriel, Tomiel, Turiel, Humiel, Sayadiel. 71, 1-6. They and the rest who took consorts. Each one chose their own. They had sex with them and defiled themselves with them. And they taught them charms and sorceries, the cutting of roots, and the uses of plants. The women got pregnant and gave birth to Nephilim, whose height was 300 cubits. Oh my. Hang on, guys. I'm going to go Google for a second. How big is 300 cubits to meters? I got to know. How long is 300 cubits? 134.16 meters. Oh my goodness. And in freedom units, that is... Let me just Google that. These were some big boys, my lord. 439 foot. That's how big these guys were. All right, where was I? I lost my page. Give me a moment. I completely lost where I was. Bear with me, folks. I think my app screwed up. The women got. Oh my goodness. I lost my page completely. It screwed up. Hang on. I apologize for that. Okay. Back to business. They and the rest took consorts, each one of them their own, and they had sex with them and defiled themselves with them. They taught them charms and sorceries, the cuttings of roots, and the uses of plants. The women got pregnant and gave birth to the Nephilim, whose height was 300 cubits. They consumed everything humans produced. When humans could no longer sustain them, they turned against them in order to consume them. They began to do wrong against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, and to eat each other's flesh and to drink their blood. Geez, no wonder God wanted to send the flood. My goodness. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Here, the Greek text differs from the Ethiopic. The Greek manuscript adds to this section. And the Greek women bore to the watchers three races. First, the great giants who brought forth the Nephilim, and the Nephilim brought forth the Eliud, and they existed, and their power and greatness increased. To eat each other's flesh, and to eat their flesh one after another. Azazel taught humans to make swords, knives, and shields, breastplates, and showed them metals of the earth and the art of alchemy, and bracelets, and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and paint, the beautifying of eyelids, the use of all types of precious stones, and all sorts of dyes. Hang on. I just want to quick pause right there. This is literally saying that the beautification of eyelids, i.e., makeup, is literally a demonic invention through which the fallen ones came and taught humanity. I tweeted today. I didn't even plan to do this when I tweeted it, but I tweeted today that many technology is not the result of just human innovation, but actually revealed to humans through higher realms. And somebody asked, what's an example of that? This is a perfect example of that. Humans did not know weaponry until Azazel taught them how to build and actually forge weaponry. Because you got to think about it, right? Imagine you're back in the day, you're walking around, right? There's like mud huts and stuff, and everything's built of stone, max, right? You're wearing some furs of an animal. That's the finest clothing. Okay, think that primitively, and then suddenly, some genius Mother Hubbard gets the idea. Huh? I wonder what happens if I melt rock to such a high temperature, and then I pour it into a mold. I can create a blade sharp enough that can maim the skin of other humans. Like that is revolutionary thinking. That is not a human invention. That is literally something that was revealed to humans, through these let's call them sons of the fallen ones, right? So to the person who asked that, there you go. Perfect example. You want to know what is divinely revealed? Weaponry and also makeup. Then the wickedness and immorality increased, and they disobeyed, and everything they did was corrupt. Semhaza taught spell potions and root cutting. Armaros taught the resolving of spell potions. Barakhijal taught astrology. Chochabel taught the constellations. And Zechel taught the knowledge of the clouds. Arachel taught the signs of the earth. Shamsel taught the signs of the sun. And Sariel taught the course of the moon. And as humans perished, they cried out, and their voice reached heaven. Then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much bloodshed on earth and all the lawlessness that was happening on the earth. They said to one another, "It's the voice of their cries. The earth, deprived of her children, has cried as far as the portal of heaven. And now people's souls complain to you, you sacred ones of heaven. They say, 'Bring our case to the Most High.' Then they say to their Lord, 'You are Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings. Your splendid throne lasts forever and ever. You have made everything, and you have power over everything. Everything is open and clear before you. You see everything, and nothing can be hidden from you. You have seen what Azazel has done, how he has taught every lawless act on earth, and he has disclosed the world all the secret things which are done in the heavens, which humans were keen to know. Also, Semhaza, to whom you have given authority over his associates. They have gone together to the human women, and have had sex with them, and have defiled themselves, and have revealed these crimes to them. And to the women, likewise, who have given birth to Nephilim, and so the whole earth has filled with blood and lawlessness. And now the souls of those who are dead cry out and complain. Even at heaven's portals, their groaning ascends. It cannot stop due to the lawlessness which is committed on earth. You know everything before it happens. You know these things and what has been done by them. Yet you do not tell us what we are supposed to do about it. Side note: the world was, we think it's degenerate now. You have no clue compared to what it used to be, all right? Nowadays, you don't have the majority of the population literally contaminated by demonic DNA, right? Like, I'm trying to picture how hellish this world was. Now remember, this is the time, this is the world where God sent the flood and literally said to Noah and his family, only you guys are the ones pure enough that I am happy enough with to continue the trajectory of the human race. All these other ones are so wicked, so perverted, that there is literally no hope for them. They are so uh lost from their ways that the only hope that God sees to resolve this issue is to completely wipe their DNA from the face of the earth. Okay, so this is like as far degen as you can possibly imagine. Just grotesque, disgusting, cannibalism widespread. You cannot even begin to imagine this. Back to the book. Then the Most High, the sacred Great One, spoke. He sent Uriel to Lamech's son and said to him, "Tell him in my name, hide yourself." Then explain to him the event that is about to happen. The whole earth will be destroyed, that a flooding deluge will cover the whole earth, and everything in it will be destroyed. And now tell him how he may escape, and how his descendants may remain for all generations on the earth. I think that's funny how I literally just mentioned Noah. I've not read this before, and it literally just talked about Noah. Next part is commentary. Tell him, i.e., tell Noah. Again, the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into the darkness. Make an opening in the desert, which is in Dundael, and throw him into there. Put him onto rough and pointed stones, and cover him with darkness, and let him stay there forever. Cover his face so that he can't see light. And in the day of great judgment, he will be thrown into the fire. Restore the earth, which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim life to it, that they may restore it. And all the humans which will not perish as a result of all the secrets of the watchers, and which they have taught to their offspring. All the earth has been corrupted by the works that were taught by Azazel. The blame for the whole crime rests on him. The Lord said to Gabriel, go to the bastards, the reprobates, to the offsprings of immortality, and destroy them, the offspring of the watchers from among the humans, and send them against one another, so they will perish by killing one another, for they will not live long lives. No, request their fathers make of you, granted will be on their behalf. They will wish to live eternally, but each one of them will live for 500 years. The Lord said to Michael, go and bind Semhaza and his associates who have had sex with women and who are so completely polluted and contaminated themselves. And when their sons have slain one another, and when they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them for 70 generations under the earth, until the day of their judgment and of their end, until their judgment that lasts forever is completed. In those times, they will be taken away to the lowest depths of the fire and tormented, and they will be shut up in prison forever. Immediately after this, he will, together with them, be condemned and destroyed, and they will be bound together for generation after generations. Jeez. Whew. I need to fan myself here. That is intense. Give me a break. Oh, I need a bit of water. Give me a second. My Lord. Destroy all the lustful spirits and the offsprings of the watchers, for they have committed crimes against humankind. Let all oppressors perish from the face of the earth, and let every evil work be destroyed. Let the plant of justice and truth appear and become a blessing. Justice and truth will forever be planted with enjoyment. And all the devoted people will be thankful and live until they have produced 1,000 children, while the whole time of their youth and of their old age will come to end peacefully. In those times, the whole earth will be cultivated with justice, and will be planted with trees, and will be filled with blessings, and all desirable trees will be filled on it. They will plant vines on it. The vines which will plant, they will yield abundant wine. Every seed which is sown onto it will produce 1,000 measures for one measure, and produce 10 presses of oil for one pressure of oil. cleanse the earth from all oppression, from all injustice, from all crimes, from all godlessness, and from all the pollution which is committed upon it. Eliminate them from the earth. Then all the humans will be just, and all the nations will highly respect me, bless me, and will all esteem me. The earth will be cleansed from all defilement, from every crime, from every punishment, and from all torment, and I will never again send torment on it for generation after generation, forever. Side note, that is what God meant by the rainbow. Okay, if you read just the normal Bible, he says that the rainbow is the sign that never again will the Lord send such, consequence upon the earth. That is essentially what we've just read right there. In those days, I will open the storehouses of blessings which are in heaven, so as to make them descend on earth over all the work and labor of humankind. Peace and fair play will associate with humankind for all the days of the world in every generation. Before all of these things, Enoch was hidden, and none of the humans knew where he was in, where he had been, and what had happened. His days were with the sacred ones, and his actions were with the watchers. I, Enoch, was blessing the great Lord, the King of ages, when the watchers called me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch, you, just scribe of justice, go and tell the watchers of heavens, who have deserted the high heaven, the sacred everlasting place, who have been defiled with women, and who have done to the humans as the humans do by taking wives for themselves. You have greatly caused corruption on earth. You will never have peace or forgiveness for your crimes. You will have no delight in your offspring, for you will see the slaughter of their loved ones, and you will lament for the destruction of your children. You can make petition forever, but you will not obtain compassion or peace. Oh my goodness. What these watchers had done in God's eyes was so reprehensible that he literally said, there is no forgiveness of these people. They have committed such a great sin that they have literally been beyond my everlasting love and my everlasting forgiveness. Imagine how great a sin God had to consider this in order to consider them so condemned forever that nothing that they can ever do will atone them of this wretched act that they've committed, which is falling from heaven to have sex with the human women and to take human wives as humans do. This is the most inconceivable betrayal that God could ever comprehend. I want that to really just stick in. Oh, it's so intense. Let me read that last sentence again. You can make petition forever, but you will not obtain compassion or peace. Book drop. I need a swig of wine after that. Give me a second. This is the real history. You can see why they left this out of the traditional Bible. It's way too much. It's like, oh my goodness. All right, returning back to the book. Then Enoch went out and said to Azazel, You will not find peace. A severe sentence has gone out against you, that you are to be bound. You will find no relief, compassion, or granting of requests. Because of the injustice you have taught, because of every act of blasphemy, lawlessness, and wrongdoing which you have shown to humankind. Side note, remember, there was no such thing as weapons, all right? Maybe the best that there was on the earth was like a rock, which Cain used to kill Abel. That was it. That was the extent of it. There was no such thing as efficient warfare. There were no weapons. There was no bow and arrow in those days. There was no sword, no dagger. until Azazel had descended from heaven to earth, decided he got really horny, took human wives as his own, and taught humans, hey bro, this is how you make a sword. So for this, he will find no relief, no compassion, or granting of his requests. Back to the book. Then I left him and spoke to them all together, and they were terrified, seized with fear and trembling. They asked me, remember this is Enoch speaking, they asked me to write a petition for them so that they might find forgiveness, and for me to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven, because from then on they could not address him or lift up their eyes to heaven on the account of the appalling offense for which they were judged. So literally, guys, these fallen angels, along with Azazel, had done something so reprehensible they could not even contact God anymore. When Enoch came to scold them on behalf of the Lord, they said to Enoch, Enoch, look, could you, have a word with him? Maybe on your, on your behalf, you can speak for us. Can you please maybe just see if we can get some little forgiveness? And that was just to no avail. Didn't work. Back to the book. Then I wrote out their petition. So Enoch tried it. Then I wrote out their petition and the prayer for their spirits, for everything which they had done, and in regard to their requests, that they should have forgiveness and rest. Then I continued on and sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, to the right of the west of Hermon. I read their petition until I fell asleep, and a dream came to me, and visions fell on me. Just a side note, your dreams are one of the many ways that God communicates with you or can communicate with you, okay? It's important to stress that not every single dream you have is significant. Sometimes it's literally just because you watched that movie right before you went to sleep. So you dreamt of it. Your subconscious is making sense. Not all dreams are divine revelations, but divine revelation can take form in dreams. So it's important to be open to that so that when and if it does happen, you can catch it. So here Enoch had a dream. And a dream came to me, and visions fell on me. And I saw visions of punishment, so that I might relate to it to the heavenly ones and reprimand them. When I awoke, I went to them. They were all sitting, gathered in Abel's jail, which is situated between Lebanon and Senecer, crying with their faces covered. I related in their presence all the visions which I had seen and my dream, and I began to utter the words of justice, reprimanding the heavenly watchers. And we're about to dive into the commentary. But basically, so this is what happened, right? God said, you absolute pieces of scum. Enoch, I don't even want to talk to these guys. Go tell them of this. Go tell them of their punishment. These dudes are sick. They're wicked. They're beyond compassion. They're beyond forgiveness. So Enoch goes and tells them, because Enoch's basically the middle guy, right? This is like between, I'm sure you've experienced this. There's one person that's angry with another person. They're not speaking into each other, so you have to be the messenger in between. This is what Enoch is. Enoch is the messenger in between these fallen ones that have committed a great betrayal against God and God himself. And God says, Enoch, I don't even want to talk to them. You go tell them. And these fallen ones have lost the privilege of communicating with God. So if they hope to have their, requests answered, it has to be on behalf of Enoch. So Enoch goes and he has a sleep that night after he's heard their prayer, he's heard their petition, he's heard their asked forgiveness. And he, during that dream, had a vision and understood that very clearly to, hey guys, didn't work. You guys are basically doomed. So he goes and he tells them, look, sorry lads, I had the vision and basically you're screwed. Back to the book. Commentary. Abel's jail was near Damascus. This is the book of the just words, and of the end of the reprimand of the watchers, who are from eternity, according to what the sacred and the great one commanded in the vision. I saw in my dream what I will now speak with the tongue of flesh, and my breath, which the mighty one has given to the human mouth to converse with, and to understand with the heart. As he has created and given to the humans the power of comprehending the word of understanding, so has he created and given to me the power of reprimanding the watchers, the heavenly ones. And this is what Enoch said. Are you ready? This is what he said to the watchers, the ones who taught human all these things that weren't for humans to know, and things like weaponry, and had sex with the humans. This is what he said to them after they begged, "Look, bro, could you please tell God this on our behalf?" This is what he said. "I have written your petition, and in my vision it appeared to me that what you request will not be granted to you as long as the world lasts. Judgment has been passed on you. Your request will not be granted to you. From this time forward, you will not ascend into heaven for all eternity, and he has said to you that you will be bound on the earth as long as the world lasts. And before these things, you will see the destruction of your beloved offspring. You will not have them, but they will fall in front of you by the sword. Your petition on their behalf will not be granted, nor for yourselves, despite your crying and your praying and speaking all the words, the writing which I have written." Oh my goodness. Guys, again, this is like the 5th time I've said it. After this, please go watch, I think it's on Amazon Prime, Noah, starring Russell Crowe. It literally will show you exactly what this is talking about. "A vision appeared to me. In that vision, clouds and a mist invited me. The pathway of the stars and flashes of lightning summoned me and pressed me forwards, while the winds in the vision caused me to fly, speeding up my progress and lifted me to heaven. I continued until I arrived at a wall built with crystals and surrounded by tongues of fire, which began to terrify me. I went into the tongues of fire and drew close to a large dwelling also built with crystals. Its walls and pavement were made with crystals, and the ground was also crystal. Its roof was like the path of stars and flashes of lightning, and among them were fiery cherubs in a watery sky. A flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its doorway blazed with fire. When I entered the dwelling, it was as hot as fire and as cold as ice. There was no trace of delight or life there. Terror seized me, and dread, shaking, seized me." Commentary. Cherubs. The plural of cherub is often written as cherubim. Cherubs are described as winged beings. Numbers chapter 7, verse 89 states that Yahweh's voice spoke to Moses from between the 2 cherubs on the top of the Ark of the Covenant. Ezekiel, which is the other book that I was debating to read to you guys tonight, describes cherubs in 1 and 10. Violently disconcerted and trembling, I fell on my face. In the vision, I saw another dwelling bigger than the former. Every entrance to it stood open in front of me. It was built of fiery flames. In every way, it was so excelled in splendor and magnificence and size that it is impossible to describe to you either the splendor or the extent of it. Its floor was on fire, and above it were flashes of lightning and the path of stars. Its roof was flaming fire. I looked and saw that it contained a high throne, the appearance of which was like a crystal, while its circumference resembled the brilliant sun. And there was the voice of the cherubs. From underneath the throne came rivers of flaming fire. To look on was impossible. The splendid one sat on it. His robe was brighter than the sun and whiter than the snow. No angel could enter and look at his face because of the splendor and grandeur, nor could any mortal look at him. The flaming fire was around him. A huge fire also continued to rise up in front of him, and no one who surrounded him was able to approach him. Among the myriads of myriads who were in front of him, he needed no counselor. The most sacred ones who were near him did not leave him by night or by day, nor did they go far from him. Until then, I had been on my face, trembling. Then the Lord called upon me with his own mouth and said, "Come here, Enoch, and hear my word." He made me rise up and approach the entrance. My face was directed to the ground. Then he answered me, and I heard his voice. He said, "Don't be afraid, Enoch. You are just a scribe of justice. Approach and hear my voice. Go and say to the heavenly watchers who have sent you to pray for them, you are ought to pray for humans and not humans for you. You have left the high and sacred heaven which lasts forever and have slept with women. You have defiled yourselves with the human women and have taken wives. You have acted like the humans, and you have produced Nephilim as your offspring. And although you were sacred, spiritual, possessing eternal life, you have defiled yourselves with the blood of women, have produced with the blood of the natural realm, have lusted like humans, and have done as those who are for flesh and blood do. These, however, die and perish. Therefore have I given them wives, and that they might have get them pregnant and produce children among them, and that this might be conducted on the earth. But you, from the beginning, were made spiritual, having eternal life, immortal for all generations. Therefore I did not make wives for you, because being spiritual, your dwelling is in heaven. Now the Nephilim, who are produced from spirit and flesh, will be called on earth evil spirits, and they will live on earth. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they were created from humans. From the sacred watches was their beginning and primary origin. Evil spirits they will be on earth, and the spirits of the wicked they will be called. As for the spirits of heaven, they will live in heaven. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born of the earth, they will live on earth. The spirits of the Nephilim will oppress, afflict, destroy, do battle, and bruise on the earth. They will cause grief. They will not eat food. They will be thirsty. They will cause trouble. They will rise up against the humans and against women because they have proceeded from them. Holy doly. Here we have, in the very own words of God, that all evil spirits that currently dwell the earth, all demons, are literally the result of these angels that used to be angels that descended to heaven, that taught them the things that humans are not to know, that had sex with human wives and thus became of the natural realm when instead their place was in heaven to be immortal. That all evil spirits originate from the Watchers. Wow, my mind is getting blown. Back to the book. Commentary. Most manuscripts have read, "They will not rise against the humans," but scholars such as Charles and Nibbs attribute the "not" to scribal error. Back to the Book of Enoch. During the days of slaughter and destruction of the Nephilim, whenever the spirits depart from the Nephilim, whenever the spirits depart from their bodies, their flesh will be destroyed before the judgment. Thus they will perish until the great end of the great world. A destruction will take place of the watchers and the wicked. And now, as for the watchers, who have sent you to pray for them, who have previously were in heaven, say to them, you have been in heaven, but have all the mysteries had not been revealed to you, you new worthless ones, and because of your stubbornness, you have related to these women, and through these mysteries, women and humankind have done much evil on earth. Say to them, you will never obtain peace. Enoch travels through the earth and through Sheol. Sheol is, I'm pretty sure it's the, correct me if I'm wrong, the Norse understanding of what hell is. Or it sounds Hebrew. Sheol sounds Hebrew. 17, 1 to 8. They took me to a certain place, and those who were there were like flaming fire. And when they wished to, they assumed the appearance of humans. They carried me to the place of darkness, to a mountain, to the top of which reached heaven. And I saw the receptacles of the luminaries and of thunder of the uttermost extremities where it was the deepest. There was a fiery bow and arrows in their quiver, a fiery sword and every type of lightning. Then they took me to a living water and to a fire in the west, which received every setting of the sun. I came to a river of fire which flowed like water and emptied itself into the great sea toward the west. I saw every large river until I arrived at the great darkness. I went to the place where no flesh walks. I saw the mountains of the gloom of winter and the place from which the water of every abyss flows. I saw the mouths of all the rivers in the world and the mouth of the deep. Pause. Wow. I don't know about you guys, but I'm absolutely loving the imagery here. While I am reading this, my other than conscious mind is being transported to like a different realm. Like as I'm reading this, I can visualize and feel how great these areas are that Enoch was sent to. This is absolutely incredible. Okay, back to the book. I then saw the holders of all the winds. I saw how they contributed to the whole creation and the foundations of the earth. I saw the cornerstone of the earth. I also saw the four winds which bear up the earth and the structure of the sky, and I saw the winds occupying the high sky, being in the midst of the heaven and of the earth, and constituting the pillars of heaven. I saw the winds of the sky, which turn and cause the orb of the sun and all the stars to set over the earth. I saw the winds carrying the clouds. I saw the path of the angels. I saw the structure of the sky above the extremity of the earth. Then I headed south and saw a place which burns day and night, where there are 7 mountains formed on the superb stones, 3 towards the east and 3 towards the south. Of those which were toward the east, one was a colored stone. One was of pearl, and another of healing stone. Those toward the south were of a red stone. The middle one reached to heaven like God's throne. It was of alabaster, and the top was of sapphire. I also saw blazing fire. Over all the tops of the mountains is a place on the other side of a large territory where waters were collected. I also saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire. And in the heavenly columns I saw the fires, and which were beyond measures both as regards their height and depth. Over this abyss I also saw a place which did not have the structure of the sky above it, nor the solid ground underneath it. There was no water above it, nor any birds, but it was a desolate place. And there I saw 7 stars, like great blazing mountains, and the spirits entreating me. There I saw 7 stars like great burning mountains, and when I inquired about them, the angel said, "This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. The stars which roll over the fire are those which disobeyed the Lord's instructions in the beginning of their time, because they did not come at their appointed times. Therefore, he was angry with them and bound them until the time when their sentence would be completed in 10,000 years. Then Uriel said to me, "The angels who were promiscuous with women will stand here. Their spirits will assume many different forms. They will defile hundreds mankind and will lead them astray into sacrificing the demons as gods. They will stand here until the great day of judgment in which they will be judged, until they are made an end of. But their wives who led astray the angels of heaven will find peace." And I, Enoch, alone saw the vision of the end of all things. No other human saw what I saw. The watchers who did not fall. Then these are the names of the sacred angels who watch. Uriel, one of the sacred angels, who presides over the world of Tartarus. Side note, we just read that Enoch was was the only human to ever experience or witness what he just saw, right? Enoch was a very special man. And if you read in the Bible, it said that uh, basically Enoch lived such a life. He was so devoted to God that he was one of the very few humans who have ever escaped death. It said that Enoch walked with God. He was at such a station. He walked with such righteousness that he didn't die. He literally, along with Elijah, was carried into heaven, boom, and did not need to suffer a humanly death. So Enoch, by all accounts, was one of the biggest G's of the biggest G's possible. Back to the book. Commentary. Tartarus. The Greeks considered Hades to be the underworld, full of ghosts or wraiths of people who had died. Homer's Odyssey speaks of Odysseus raising spirits from Hades and notes that these spirits could be strengthened when they drank blood. It also speaks of people continuing their earthly ways. For example, one person was professionally hunting. It was spoken of as terrifying, an eerie place, but not specifically a place of punishment like Tartarus. Hades is commonly translated as hell in most Bible versions, as are Gehenna and Tartarus. Yet to the Greeks, they were separate places. Tartarus was the lowest region of the underworld, said to be far below Hades as the earth is under the sky. Tartarus was the place where the very wicked were punished. The Greeks believed Hades to be midway between heaven and Tartarus. See Seculus. I'll spell that out for you in case you want to actually search that out later. Aeschylus. Achilles. Yeah, Prom 152-6, if you want to look that up for later reference. Would that he had hurled me underneath the earth and underneath the house of Hades, host to the dead, yes, down to the limitless Tartarus, yes, though he bound me cruelly in chains unbreakable. Translation by David Green. The Septuagint translated Sheol as Hades. Raphael, one of the sacred angels, who is over human spirits. Raguel, one of the sacred angels, who inflicts punishment on the world over the luminaries. Michael, one of the sacred angels, who is over the most part of humankind in charge of the nations. Sarakel, one of the sacred angels who presides over the spirits of the humans that do wrong. Gabriel, one of the sacred angels who presides over the seraphim, over paradise and over the cherubim. Remiel, one of the sacred angels whom God set over those who rise. Commentary. The Ethiopic word ikisat which means serpents, and was translated by the Greeks as drakon, which means huge serpent, a python, a dragon. The Hebrew word seraphim can also mean serpents. Aside from the book, I wonder if that's talking about a specific link that perhaps maybe the dragons of the old world. By the way, dinosaurs aren't real. They do not exist. It's a psyop. Dragons really existed. Okay, just some couple things to think about. Number one, Chinese zodiac, right? You've got the rat, you've got the ox, you've got the tiger, you've got the rabbit/cat, etc., etc. They're all normal earthly animals. And then you've got the dragon. All right, why would it be just normal animals that they observe normally and then a dragon? Just think about it, okay? Dragons are real. That's why. Alexander the Great, he once encountered, when he was trying to take over India, he once encountered a dragon that he saw that the people were worshipping like a god. Okay? I knew of that previously to reading this, obviously. But now, having just read that context, in which all the translations of the Ethiopic word ikisat, which means serpent, was translated by the Greeks as drakon, which means huge serpent, a python, a dragon, and the Hebrew word seraphim, which can also mean serpents, makes me now think that perhaps, I'm not saying this is true, I'm saying maybe, the dragons that we used to have in the old world were actually a form of angel. Based on what we just read, that's actually not totally implausible. Just throwing that out there. Back to the book. In the Greek, paradisius, commonly transliterated as paradise, is a Persian loanword meaning a garden of fruit trees or orchid, which first occurs in Greek Xenophon's Anabasis. It appears commonly in the papyri and the inscriptions in the same meaning. And it's in the C.I. Tyre 1.108, late Roman, and it states the following. I solemnly request those who are going to acquire this orchid. And then another P. Peter, I 1627, 230 BC. The produce of my orchids, P. Tebet, 1.553, 118 BC. The tithes which they used to receive from the holdings and the orchids, P. Land, 933.12, AD 211, notes a payment on account of an olive orchid. See also the Rosetta Stone, 196 BC. The word frequently occurs in the Septuagint as a garden, sometimes as the abode of the blessed. See Kant, 5.13, Ecclesiastes 2.5, and Nehemiah 2.8. The Midrash Haggadah, Midrash means a verse-by-verse interpretation of scripture, and Haggadah is an interpretation and expansion of the non-legal portions of scripture, describes paradise in detail as far as giving dimensions and the furnishings of the chambers. The details are said to have been supplied by individuals who visited paradise while alive. It's stated that 9 mortals visited heaven while alive, and that one of these is Enoch. Guys, isn't it funny how I literally tell you the thing, and then, a couple of pages later, we talk about that exact same thing? I have not read this before. That's crazy. So there was 9 mortals that visited heaven while alive, and one of these is Enoch. Ezekiel's description of paradise is similar to that of Enoch's. A great mountain in the middle of the earth, which has streams of water flowing from under it. A palm tree grows in the middle of the center of the sacred enclosure, and similar descriptions are to be found in other apocalypses. Baruch 5, 2 Esed 8.52. In rabbinical literature, the conception of paradise stands in contradistinction to hell. Paradise is occasionally referred to as the world to come. The word occurs 3 times in the New Testament: Luke chapter 23, verse 43, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4, and Revelations chapter 2, verse 7. Enoch's second journey. Then I went to a place where things were dreadful. There I neither saw a high heaven nor an established earth, but a desolate, appalling spot. There I saw 7 stars of heaven bound together in it. The great mountains of blazing fire. I said, for what type of crime have they been bound, and why have they been thrown into this place? Then Uriel, one of the sacred angels, who was with me and who guided me, answered, Enoch, why do you ask? Why do you earnestly inquire? These are of those stars which have disobeyed the law's commandment and are bound here until 10,000 years, until their time of their crimes have come to pass. Afterward, I went on from there to another dreadful place, more ghastly than the former, where I saw a huge, blazing and glittering fire, in the middle of which there was a split as far as the abyss. It was as full of huge columns of fire, and the descent was deep. I could not discover its measurement or magnitude, nor could I perceive its source. Then I exclaimed, how horrifying this place is, and how difficult to explore. Then Uriel, one of the sacred angels who was with me, answered me, Enoch, why are you alarmed and amazed at this appalling place, at the sight of this place of pain? He told me, this is the prison of angels, and they are kept here forever. From there I went to another spot, and he showed me an immense, high mountain of hard rock in the west. There were 4 hollow places in it, which were deep and very smooth. 3 of them were dark, and 1 was bright. And there was a fountain of water in the middle of it. I said, these beautiful places are so smooth and so deep and dark to look at. Then Raphael, one of the sacred angels who was with me, answered, the beautiful places have been created for this very purpose, for the spirits of the souls of the dead to assemble in them, so that all the souls of humans should assemble here. They will stay in these places until the day of their judgment, until their anointed time. Their appointed time will be long until the great judgment. And I saw the spirits of humans who were dead, and their voices reached heaven in complaint. There I asked Raphael, the angel who was with me, whose spirit is that? Whose voice of which reaches to heaven in complaint? And he answered unto me, this is the spirit of Abel, who was slain by his brother Cain, and will accuse that brother until his descendants are wiped off the face of the earth, until his descendants are annihilated from the descendants of the human race. At that time, I asked about him. And what about the general judgment? Why is one separated from another? He answered, these 3 have been made so that the spirits of the dead might be separated. This division has been made for the spirits of the just, in which there is the bright spring of water. And this has been made for wrongdoers when they die and are buried in the earth, when judgment has not been executed on them in their lifetime. Here are their spirits. They will be separated in this great pain until the time of great judgment, the scoldings, and the torment of the accursed, whose souls are punished and bound there forever. Thus has it been from the beginning of the end of the world. And this division has been made for the spirits of those who make complaints, who give information about their destruction, and who were killed in the days of the wrongdoers. This has been made for the spirits of unjust humans who are wrongdoers, who have committed crimes, and who are godless associates of the lawless. But their spirits will not be annihilated in the day of judgment, nor will they rise from this place. Then I, blessed with the splendid Lord, blessed are you, just Lord, who reigns over everything forever and ever. From there I went to another place, toward the west, to the extremities of the earth. There I saw a blazing fire which ran without ceasing and did not change its course day or night, but always continued the